Welcome, welcome, welcome. Here with a new episode of Consciousness Rising Zimbabwe and Beyond. And we are on a platform where we interview people from all walks of life who are doing interesting things and making a difference to their community. And so we think that if they do that, they make a difference to the world. Today we are welcoming here Calley Beamish, and it's such a pleasure for me because she's also a personal friend. So to interview her is being home. And so I would like really to share gifts with all of you. So welcome, Calley.
Thank you so much, Antonella. So excited to be here.
Before we go on, let me tell you a bit about the background of Calley that is quite abundant, and there is a wealth of knowledge that is quite interesting. So Calley is a zoologist and an entomologist, and spent many years working as a researcher and conservationist, a sustainability senior manager, and a safari guide around the Southeast Asia and Southern Africa. She spent several years writing a book on the tropics, which focused especially on tropical wildlife and how to handle any dangerous animals, from a huge range of encounters, from stalking lions to airy caterpillars. She has a passion for the forest, for all wildlife, and for travel. Whilst working and traveling around Southeast Asia, Calley trained under Master Chua for several years in an Eastern healing philosophy called cosmic therapy. She also spent several years following the medicine wheel and exploring the sacred energetic medicine of wildlife and shamanism with Scott Alexander King, a shaman and earth medicine practitioner in Australia. She has undergone specialist training in a range of alternative practices over many years, from space clearing to mediumship to many others. She's gifted with seeing through the realms since she was a child. What an amazing experience as a healer that you do have. So once again, we welcome Calley. And today Calley is here with us to talk about animal totem, power animals, and animals as current helpers in our life. And so before we go there though, I know that there is a part of you that is a scientist and a part of you that is a weirdo, like many of us.
Weirdo. Okay.
So these two parts of you, which are, I mean, in the normal world, they are pretty separated. It's like there is no communication. So how did you manage in all your life to bridge the two? I mean, to bridge these two worlds, because you've been living in worlds.
That's true. For me, yeah, it's true. Being a weirdo and a scientist, I like that. I've never seen them as apart. I've always seen them as integrated. You know, when I was at university, I was brought up Catholic. So when I was at university, I was studying zoology and entomology, and I was interviewed on a radio station there about how do I bring Catholicism at that time, that was my spirituality at that time, together with the science. And I said, well, I don't see how they're not related, because they all, to me, all integrate deeply. Mm-hmm. And you know, in the science world, they'll talk about creationism and they will talk about Darwinism, and then you go to the, you know, you go off to Catholicism and everything's created by God. But I saw it all integrated. I saw intelligent design created with God, with the science. So I often feel like science is just catching up. It's catching up to what we know in the spiritual realms already, the consciousness. You know, so I don't know if you ever heard of the stories of the Aboriginal people. You know, they pass down all their stories through mythology. So when they look at like the Great Barrier Reef, those were always part, like animals was always part of their mythology, and with the science is just catching up now. what they said for many years, for many generations, was there was these rises in sea levels and lowering of sea levels, and the scientists are now matching what they've always had in their culture. So when you look at it from all angles, they all support each other ultimately.
Yeah,
So
I
I
mean,
don't feel like they're separate.
I'm thinking like whales. So when you talk about the coral reefs and the whales, that they keep the energetic grid of they say that they keep the energetic grid of the earth together through the seas, while elephants do it on earth. It's like
Oh, I love that idea.
the song lines. I mean, they find out that
exactly.
before, of course, there were so many people on Africa fighting for land instead of integrating. There were this walkaway that you could see from above, going from southern Africa up to going north of Africa. And they were all elephant walkway. And they say that this walkway actually maintain the energetic grid and the memory as well. And they like song lines in Australia, what they call song lines in Australia. Yeah. It's like the meridian.
I think that's awesome.
Yes.
Yeah. So I always think, when I think of whales, I always think of whales as record keepers. So if we think of what they call the Akashic records, I think of the Akashic records almost like you would have a hard drive in the clouds. And what we do with our human consciousness is we sort of save that and we upload it into the Akashic record. So people who often have a whale as a totem are record keepers. So being a record keeper as a person also means that you like to do things in a certain way. So when you look at it then as an individual level, taking that the wisdom, the sacredness, the gifts of the whale, and then on a personal level, what does it mean to you if you have a whale with you? Is that you often, the shadow aspect is that you need to do things in a certain order or routine. And so for the outsider, that might seem a little bit OCD or over the top. But for the person living with it, if they are following their little routine every morning, they are able to have less anxiety. So when you start to go more in depth with the whale as well, in terms of your purpose or your power animal or even your totem animal, because it really helps you to dive into your purpose. But also it has each animal has a little bit of a shadow aspect where you kind of, the more you go deep into the animal, the more you understand yourself. So I love that wisdom of the whales and the elephants combined together that you mentioned. That's awesome.
When you were talking about following the routines, I thought about me in the morning getting up and having coffee. And although it's not probably very healthy, but it's like a routine which makes me start the day. And I had this vision of the whale coming to surface and taking a breath of fresh air. Yes.
I love that. That's awesome.
I like the routine concept of the whale. You always been clairvoyant. You could see always different realms, correct? Since you can remember?
Since I was small, I mean, I always remember all fairies for me were always real. Animals around me were always real. And I remember when I was maybe about 4 or 5, I was sitting with my mom on the dining room table. She used to paint quite a lot, and she was painting owls on a like a little box, a wooden box. And I remember sitting there and saying, well, my owl is like that, but it's got a little bit more dots on the wing and it's a bit bigger. And I think she just used to just nod and smile and say, that's lovely. But it was my owl, and I thought everyone could see what I saw. I thought that was normal. I thought everyone had the same. So it never occurred to me that no one else could see my owl, for example, or my other animals around me. I just presumed that was normal for everyone.
And also, I know that many of the kids who have imaginary friends, many times they've got friends from the spirit world that they are with them. And then when at the age of going to school, because we're starting to be boxed, we have to grow according to what rule of society wants us to do. We start to shut down our capacity to travel between realms, correct?
Yeah, because also we've still got to live in what I call the 3D world, you know. And for humans, it's very important that we fit in, like there's a feeling of belonging. So especially as a child, when you're starting school, if you are feeling ostracized and you never feel like you fit in, it becomes a very uncomfortable living. So for me, 3 weeks before I started school when I was 6, my owl flew away. And my mom said I cried solidly for 3 weeks solid, because I saw it flew down to the bottom of the garden and was in the bamboos, and I would go every night and try and call it, and it just wouldn't come back. And I think my mom, she must have thought I was weird, of course, but like she said, I was devastated. She couldn't console me for weeks. I was just crying and crying because my owl had left me. And it was only much, much later, when I was doing part of my healing journey, I was on a water retreat when I was following the medicine wheel in Australia. And one of the participants was a medium, and she was doing a demonstration of mediumship. And at that time, I was on my own healing journey. I was healing one of my own physical ailments. And I was working quite closely with Archangel Raphael. But I was feeling a bit grumpy with him, because I was feeling like the healing wasn't happening fast enough for me. So anyway, when she was doing this demonstration and giving different readings, and then she suddenly just went, wow, cheapers, there's a huge angel that's just walked in. And she's like, oh, it's Archangel Raphael. And I was like, oh, Archangel Raphael, he doesn't do any work for me. And then she looked at me and she said, Calley, it's for you. And I was like, oh no. And she said, but he's got something for you. So I was like, ooh, what's that? And she said, I don't know, hold on. And then she said he just opened his cloak, and there on his hand was this huge owl. And he says, here's your owl back again to you. I was like,
oh my
I
God.
was so blown away. And I remember phoning my mom immediately and saying, do you remember my owl? And she said, of course. She said you were so upset when you started school that your owl flew back. So it was like I got my owl back. And from then onwards, it was then with me at all times. So it was sort of like coming back home to who I was. So I found school, you had to shut down in certain ways, and also religion and society, you sort of get boxed, and you have to shut down a lot of those things. I felt like later on, when everything reopened again, just getting back my owl. It was cool.
So thank you for sharing this story. It just gave me the goosebump when you were sharing that. So what is the owl about? Let's delve now into the power animals and the totem and the current helpers. So what is the owl about?
Sure. So for me, the owl is depiction of pure spirit. It has a purity inside of it. It's pure spirit. It depends on whether you're seeing it flying, you're dreaming about it, or it's actually an animal that's with you for all your life. So for me, if you look at an animal like an owl as a power animal, then I see it as an animal that's with you for your whole life. It helps you to understand yourself. And also it has deep life lessons, and it gives you its gifts and like innate gifts and abilities. So for the owl, I always imagine that if I'm walking through a forest and it's unclear, it's like the owl flies ahead and says, "Don't worry, I'm going to show you the way. I've got you." So my eyes are ahead. So it really gives you the ability to see beyond the realm. So people who have an owl normally have gifts of clairvoyance, or they feel deeply. They have a deep sense of intuition. But also, people who have an owl normally are able to see through deception quite quickly. So they'll know something is not quite right about a person, but they don't necessarily know why. So they'll have a gut instinct about it. If I was to look at the owl as like a messenger spirit, so say you were driving in a car and an owl flew past, for me that's change is about to happen. So like when I was in Singapore once, I was moving from Singapore back to Zimbabwe, and I was due to fly out that night, and I was sort of coming back to the place I was staying, getting ready to pack and go to the airport, and this owl flew straight past me, right in front of my face. And I knew straight away that there was going to be a change. So within 20 minutes, I got a message to say from the airline, "I'm sorry, your flights are cancelled. We'll resume in 2 days' time." So it's, for me, looking at the different animals as an aspect of message for you in your physical life, but also as a spirit guide or an energy that's supporting you for your life or your whatever current circumstances you're going through. So if I was to look at an owl as a totem animal, I like to separate the animals between power animals, totem animals, and then current helpers. So for me, a power animal is an animal that's, I normally say 3 to 5 animals that we have for our whole life. And especially the first animal, when I'm doing a reading that comes in for a person, that's the most dominant energy in that person's life. So for example, if you have a tiger, for example, that comes in as your first power animal, you most likely need independence. Even if you're in a relationship or you've got children, there's a definite need for independence and for freedom to do your own thing. But also the shadow aspect is about trying to continually teach you when to push and when to wait. So the tiger is quite a poor predator. So when it chases its prey, it normally loses it. So it's learned to just wait in the grass. And then as the animal comes by, it grabs it. So it teaches you about grabbing onto opportunities when they come. But also when you try and chase after something, it's just not going to work out. So it helps you to understand in your life, if when you're pushing and things are not working out and still not working out, it's really just to say it doesn't mean it's not going to work out, but you need time to step back and wait. So it sort of gives us a lesson on stepping back and waiting. And then the totem animals, did you want to ask a question?
Well, so it would be more about aligning with divine timing.
Yes, exactly. Divine timing, yeah. So the tiger really is helping you if you are pushing too hard. So sometimes when it's hard for people who are ambitious because they believe you've got to put the hard work in and you've got to push and push and push. But if you're pushing, the more you're pushing it away. Then it's about being aware in your life, okay, whoa, this is the time I need to just step back and wait. And that it's still going to happen, but I'm going to actively wait. And then when I'm ready, so the other aspect is you actually, maybe you're waiting too much. You're just lounging on the ground in the grass and not keeping your eyes ready for the prey. So there's the other shadow aspect of that, being aware, are you actively waiting or are you just being lazy in the grass and hoping something will just, come into your lap, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Okay.
So when I think of between the power and the totem animals, and totem animals for me are animals that have come into your life currently. They're working with you currently. When I say currently, they might be with you for a few years. So in total, you might be working with more than 13 animals at a time. The totem animals really just help support you in whatever current issue you're going through. So for example, let's say there's a change happening in your life. So you would have animals that are supporting that change within what I call the totem group. And then I also further separate, there's another separation, and that's what I call current animal helpers. So animals right at that moment that I've got a message for you. So for example, if I see a canary coming in with a client, it's telling, as you know, I don't know if you know, canaries were used by miners to check the quality of the air in mine shafts. So what they used to do is they used to release the canary down the mine shaft, and if it didn't sing, if there was no return of the canary or it died, they knew it wasn't safe to go there. So now if I was to see a canary coming as a current animal for someone who's coming for a reading, I would know it's a warning. Just be aware that there's toxins in your life that you need to address. So is it your diet? Is it your thoughts? Are you constantly having toxic thoughts? Or actually, is it the job that you're doing? Or is it the people that you're surrounded by? So the canary comes in with a pertinent message right at this moment in your life. Look at the toxins that you are taking in, whether that's mental, physical, emotional. It's time to change. So it's like an early warning system for you.
For example, many people think that power animals are always nice animals, and then they can be petrified of snakes or spiders, or maybe they find out that their power animal is a mosquito or a hyena.
Yeah.
So what happens there?
Yeah.
What happens?
It's just being aware that, if you look at most indigenous cultures, especially the Native American culture, they all believe that every single animal has a function. Every single animal is vital, is important. It brings a very specific medicine, energetic medicine to support you. So if we were to look at something like a mosquito, which feels pesky and annoying, and why would anyone want a mosquito as a power animal? I understand you would think, I don't want a mosquito as a power animal. But a mosquito has also comes with good qualities. If you think about that, as you're doing that, when you're lying in bed and that you've got this constant buzzing, what does it make you think of? It's this constant persistence. So there's a lot of layers to the mosquito. So if we think of persistence, it encourages you to persist in what you're doing. So make sure that you are grabbing opportunities and persist, because they're opportunistic. So they're coming, especially if they're malarial mosquitoes, if they're in, something that's going to inject you with a plasmodium or something. What that means is that you've got to be aware sometimes if you have a mosquito as a power animal, that you're not feeding off other people, that you're not getting your nourishment from other people. Are you, is there a balance, if that makes sense? So yes, every animal brings a sort of shadow and a good side, a shadow aspect and a good side. So the good side is, if you just think about the African proverb, and when people say, if you think that you're too small to make a difference, well, that's because you haven't spent a night with a mosquito. Okay, and there's truth in that statement, because it reminds you that just because you might feel insignificant doesn't mean that you can't make a big change. So it reminds you of your innate abilities and your power to do something, even if you feel a little bit insignificant, because the key for mosquito is persistence. Think about how annoying it is. You think you flicked it off and then you hear in your ear again. It's this constant persistence. So it's really encouraging you to be persistent in whatever you're trying to achieve in your goals. So that persistence can bring you success, because you're not giving up. You're taking hold of the opportunities and you're running with them. So shadow aspects, what I call shadow totems. So if I just asked you very quickly name one animal that you love, one animal that you don't like, without thinking, what would you say?
Well, before, when I was, 10 years ago, I couldn't stand the spider. Just spider for me, it was out of.
And now, still the same.
No, now I embrace, because I know that is the one who create a web, which we are doing it right now. That is the weaver. That is also the symbol for the artist, which is finally something that I've embraced in the past. The past 5 years.
That's powerful, very powerful.
Yeah, and to see, like,
for me, when I
golden orbs. Golden orbs, for example. I know that they filter also lots of stuff through their web.
Through the web. Yeah, so if you were to ask someone just quickly, and they were not to give their mind time to intervene, so like I remember someone asking me very quickly, okay, give me your thing, animal you like, and I was like, okay, a cat. Animal I don't like, cockroach, and that's actually the only animal I don't like, is the cockroach. And the cockroach is very versatile. It's a survivor. It's very adaptable. It adapts to every situation, and sometimes that's irritating to me, because why am I so adaptable? Why do I have to be so adaptable? Why do I sort of pushed around allow my boundaries to be pushed around a bit? So that's when you go into the shadow aspect of that, like snake. People don't like snakes. Generally really don't like change in life. Change is a big thing for them. They don't like it. So it's looking at the animals that you don't like also bring a very important medicine, because they help us to understand what our fears are, what self-imposed limitations we put in our lives that aren't real. Yeah. And the more we look also at the shadow totems, the more we think about, well, actually, is this true? Is there a way I can shift it? Yeah. So they bring powerful medicine just as well as good ones do. Okay. I would like to add something on the snake, because snake is always had a big impact on me, because, well, I'm a snake, first of all, as a Chinese horoscope, I'm a snake. But then I remember when I started my work on myself I was 29, and I was coming from a period where I lost my husband, my life was okay, nothing really to pinpoint, but really I wasn't happy and a bit depressed. And when I started to work on myself, one of the first dreams that I had was I met this very, very old woman, a wisdom keeper for sure.
and she had lots of snakes in glass cases without a lid. So there was this long glass case with all these snakes. And then I felt like drawn to this glass case. And then the woman was there watching and looking at me, and she was like, go, go, go. And then I took one, and once I took this snake, it became a staff in my hand. And that was like, whoa.
Wow.
It was very powerful.
Amazing.
And that's, so for me, snake, I never had really a big issue. It's actually, but people freak out. Also, I think that the Bible and the Genesis didn't help for the snake to be glamorous.
It was all the serpent's fault. So for me, the snake is also, if you have a snake as a power animal, it means that you will always be driven to change, to transform, but also that you come with the innate gifts to help other people change, to transform. So most healers will have a snake as one of their power animals, especially something as powerful sometimes as a rainbow serpent. You know, in the dream time, in Aboriginal dream time, they believe that these ancestral spirits came up from the land, and they formed the valleys and the landscapes. The world was once flat. One of their creative spirits is a rainbow serpent. And they believe as this rainbow serpent, this huge, beautiful colored, multicolored snake, moved over the flat land, it created the valleys and the rivers. So they see it as a creative spirit. So if you have, for example, a rainbow serpent as a power animal, it means you're an extremely powerful healer, that you really are here to change people, to heal people, to help people at a big level. So looking at the rainbow spirit, and every different snake has a slightly different medicine. So for example, if we looked at the black mamba is all about balance. So it's about balance. It's about learning when you say no, that you mean no. So sometimes we need to say no in order to say yes to ourselves. Otherwise it defeats the whole object of choice. Whereas a cobra, it's also very nice. So it brings, of course, the change, but also it reminds you that your words are venomous. If you are backed into a corner, you will say words that are going to hurt people. So it's being aware of your words, especially if you feel angry or backed in a corner. So it's learning to process your emotions before saying something that you're going to regret. So walk away, go to the bathroom, let go of the anger, and then come out, because you will say things that you regret, like a snake being stuck in a corner.
And also, if you think of cobra, I mean, all the what do you call headband of the Egyptian with the pharaoh, they had the snake, I mean, the cobra coming, the hooded cobra coming from their third eye as well. Yeah.
So that would also powerful healer, powerful transformation, bringing us. To me, snake are it's the most powerful energetic medicine. It really comes with the power to change your life. And what you were talking about earlier about physical snakes as well. So if you're dreaming a lot about snakes, it means you are being reminded that there's changes in your life that you need to make. Now, if you are not making those changes in your life, you're not taking the steps you know you need to take, you will then start to see the snake in the physical world. If you still are not going to take the steps of change, then you are going to be bitten by a snake. So literally, the snake literally stalks you until you make the changes that you need to make in your life. So it starts off just gentle in your dreams, and then from your dreams into the physical, and then from the physical then into guaranteed to be bitten. So the other day I had a client who said they found 4 black mambas in the house, and I said, wow. And 2 cobras. So I was like, well, there's a huge message there for you, you know. And if you just kill a snake, you're not going to stop the change that's inevitable.
It's like shooting the messenger.
This recognizing also, it's exactly, it's like shooting the messenger. You're going to kill the snake, but the change is still going to happen. So whether you like it or not, whether you're trying to resist the change, it is going to happen. So it really does push you to make changes in your life.
I told you. I told you. The snake is staying. So we have the last. It's not very long. The time we have left. You wanted to give us a gift today.
Yes. So this is, I don't have a hat because I'm in quarantine, but this is my hat, and it's a little pillowcase, and what I've written in it is I've written a lot of animal names, and I wrote them on a piece of paper and I folded it up. All right. So I want to put the intention there that the people that are listening, that they will hear a message for themselves. So I'm hoping definitely that there will be someone who will feel it right to the depths of them, a message especially for them. So I'm going to pull out 3. I promise I don't know there's so many. It's going to be exciting to see what it comes out first. So I'm going to take them one by one. So the first one is a dung beetle.
Okay.
And the second one is a shark.
Oh.
Very interesting. And then the last one, it's a dormouse. It's a dormouse. Now, dormouse is like a small little mouse, a tiny little mouse. It's not the type of mouse that you want to do rodent control against. They're very cute little mice. Okay, so I'm going to go through the 3 of them. Let's just explain what they mean first. So the dung beetle, for me, if you look at the dung beetle, what it does is it's the first to arrive on the scene at a pile of dung. So it takes what feels like crap and not very nice and something that people don't really want, and it makes it into a ball, and in that ball it places its eggs. It buries that ball of dung with the eggs, and when the larvae come out, they start to feed on this dung ball, and then they eventually are going to become new beetles. So it actually teaches us that seems horrible in our life right now, what seems difficult, what seems like an awful event or trauma that happened in our life, it encourages us to transform it into something beautiful, something new. So let's say you went through a trauma in your life. It's about, instead of sticking in the victim mode, okay, if I transform, if I heal this, I can help someone else heal the same issue in their life, for example. Or I can use this as a way to drive me to create something new and different in my life, maybe a new pattern, a new beginning. It's very powerful. So it encourages us instead, if we, especially in this time of global pandemic, don't look at this as just a horrible time that, you know, the economy's failing and I don't have a job. Actually, what can you make out of this? Maybe this is more time for you to go within, to spend time meditating, to spend more time grounding yourself. Maybe this is a time to reassess your life, to think about, well, actually, what do I really want in my life? Is the job that I'm doing fulfilling me? Is the relationship that I'm in, is it making me happy? So it's looking at what feels like not so nice and comfortable right now and making it into something beautiful, something new. So shark is often about authority as well. So people who like authority, like rules. But also for me, it's very much about going after that which you want. So if you think about, if there's just a drop of blood in the water, a shark can zone directly to that drop of water, that drop of blood in the water. So if I was trying to, I don't know, go to White Island in Cape Town and I wanted to see white sharks, they would put a bait, like a fish that's got blood, they put it in the water and that attracts the sharks. So if you think how amazing their olfactory sources, their senses are, they can immediately sense the blood and they go straight there. So they teach us that what we really want, just go directly to it. So they help us, they give us that strength, that determination to not allow doubt at all. So focus on exactly what you want and know that you're going to get there directly. All right. So the shark doesn't sit and think, oh, did I smell that? Or didn't I smell that? It just says, right, blood, go. And that's what it encourages us to do. There's no room for doubt. There's no room for, you want this, you go after it, you put the work in, and it helps you to get there. Okay, so it's really, also if you're thinking about from the dung beetle of transforming something in your life and you want to now create something new, it's really being, not allowing self-doubt in, just determination. So visualizing, okay, what do I really want? And not allowing any ounce of self-doubt to come in. Okay, now the dormouse is your...
I take that this reading is for me. This morning I went to exactly there, self-doubt. Oh, what am I doing? What am I doing? Okay, I got the answer. Thank you so far. Keep going, keep going.
Okay, and so the challenge to following what the shark is telling you to do, The challenge is your dormouse. Now, when I see a dormouse in a client session, I normally see a dormouse running in and out of their ears, like frantic, in and out of their ears, like puffing and, just on the shoulder and saying, please just give me a break. So what that's telling me is there's too much noise in the head, okay? There's anxiety. You're allowing too many, you sort of grasp one idea and then you analyze it, overanalyze it, turn it upside down, reanalyze it. It's this constant noise. There's no space. How do you create something new if there's no space in the mind? So as much as possible to blank the mind and to go back to the shark where you want to visualize exactly what you want, and you don't allow this noise to it's going to self-sabotage, really. Sabotages all of your efforts to create something that you're ready to revision. Because the dung beetle is saying, come on, make something beautiful out of this time. The shark's saying, don't doubt yourself, go after it, you're going to do it. And the dormouse is saying, stop all this noise in your mind. It's destroying what you're trying to create. So I often say to people who have a dormouse, you need a break. So it's not just about a physical break, it's really a mental break. How are you going to give yourself a mental break? Doing things like meditation, going to lie on the grass, just imagining those words and those constant thoughts just going out like clouds out of your head. You could bring white light in to just clear them out the base of your feet. Anything that's going to blank your mind is going to ensure that you can get what the dung beetle's asking you to do. Transform your life.
Okay.
Okay, does that make sense?
It does. I mean, I take it. Thank you for the reading. Thank you for the reading. It's just for me, perfect. Perfect at the moment.
Oh, that's awesome.
So we can consider this one our animal helpers, current animal helpers. These three that you just
exactly.
Told
This is
us.
exactly. This is your current message, just to say, hey, this is what's going on in your life right now. Time to calm the mind and get rid of the doubt, rid of the self-sabotage that you're creating in your life. You're sabotaging what you're trying to birth. You're trying to birth something new. Remember the dung beetle births something brand new out of something that doesn't feel so good.
Yeah.
So,
okay, so Calley, thank you. I mean, that's been wonderful. Thank you very much. And I'm sure we're gonna have a different conversation on different topics at some point. So thank you for having opened us to this world of animals. One last question I just came through. So how can we help? I know that in the Shona tradition, probably, quite often in African tradition, there's so much fear about the owl and the hyena. The hyena because the varoi, the witches, were traveling on the back of the hyena. Yeah, and the owl because again, witches again, or bringer of death. There's all these beliefs. So what can we say to people to see it from a different point of view, if they can?
I think it's important to, if you understand the animal a bit more, like owls. Without owls, we would have terrible rodent problems, for example. So a lot of those places like Kwembashiri outside of Harare, they do amazing education programs, especially on owls, people to understand what owls are and the benefits they bring to us. The hyena, for example, if you look at it in an energetic way, it's normally found with people who are strong, independent, often independent women, strong, independent woman, it gives them that strength. But it also reminds us to not skulk in the shadows. So where we have insecurities, everyone has insecurities, fears, doubts, worries, anxieties that we try and hide away because we think we're the only ones that have those things. Whereas the hyena teaches us to embrace that, embrace the fear and the doubt and the worry that you might be having, and allow it to come to the surface. Be honest about how you are. And that allows you then to laugh. If you think of the hyena, when it laughs, when it makes a kill, it's just coming out of the shadows and saying, okay, yes, I have shadow aspects and I have light aspects, but I want to work on my shadow aspects, but still, I'm still human. It's okay that I have these shadow aspects. I'm not going to pretend they don't exist. Okay, and as you embrace the energetic medicine of the hyena, you learn to love all aspects of yourself. It's okay that you have these human fears and doubts and anxieties that come up in your life. That's normal for any person. You work through those, but you don't suppress them. You don't pretend they don't exist. But I think in terms of understanding animals better, people are able to then feel less fearful of them. But it is also, if you've been brought up with so many fears of animals, it is something that you've got to be committed to make that change in your mind.
True.
So it's allowing a change.
True.
But also, looking at animals can also be, it represents loved ones that are passed over or ancestors that have passed over. And those will be different for each person. So someone might see a blue butterfly, and for them that represents their grandfather, or someone else looks at a purple-crested lory or what we call a taraco now, and they will think, oh, that's my grandmother, that's my soulmate. So it's learning to interpret those messages for ourselves, because if you look out there on the internet, you look at animal symbolism, you'll find lots of different interpretations. So it's about learning what interpretation fits in with you. So if you, for example, are, when you see a spider, instead of getting worried about the fact that you've seen a spider, think about, okay, what's going on in my life at the moment, just before I saw that spider, or what was I thinking just before I saw that? And also the behavior of the animal is important. So if I was doing a reading and someone had a cheetah, and the cheetah came in and just collapsed on the ground and could barely get up, I'd know that that person is heading for burnout. Okay, right. Because cheetah only does things in spurts. So people who have cheetah as a power animal, they've got to do things in spurts. They can work for a few weeks or a week, then they must take a break. Or if they're going to work solidly for a week, they must have a weekend that they do nothing, absolutely nothing. Otherwise, they're going to burn out very quickly. So it's looking for yourself. If you're trying to interpret an animal message, think about what you're thinking about when you saw the animal. Or if you look up the symbolism on the internet and think about what's going on in your life and how that relates to you. Because we're constantly being sent messages all the time. And so it's looking at what animal encounters you're having in your dreams as well as physical encounters, and trying to relate that to what's going on in your life. Okay, so if you, for example, saw a vulture, you know that the vulture is telling you, just rise above the drama. Don't get sucked into the drama. See everything from a higher perspective. So every animal comes with this energetic medicine, these messages that can help support us in our daily life, especially when we're seeking clarity on whatever's going on in our life. So really helping us, support us in whatever's going on in our lives.
Thank you, Calley. God, we could go on for hours and hours. Time doesn't allow. So people can find you through your website if they want to
yes, so my website.
Or want to know more. What's your website?
Yes. So my website is calleybeamish.com. So it's CalleyBeamish.com. Also, I thought I would offer to you and to your listeners, Antonella, just a special. So if any of those listening would like to maybe go on a journey to find their own power animal and to learn a little bit more about power animals, I will offer a sort of a short meditation that they could follow and go on their own journey to discover their power animals. And if they can just email me, if I can give you my email address, it's just calleybeamish.co.uk. They could just email me and then I can send them a clip as my gift to everyone that's been on the call today on this video, because I think it's so important to know like what your animals are, because it helps you to understand who you are, what's the challenges in your life, and how and the more you understand the animal, the more you understand yourself, which is really helps you to navigate life a bit more easily.
That's really very nice of you, and I'm gonna do it. Surely I'm gonna do it. And so to the next. What can we say?
To the next. I look forward to another video another time.
Yes. Thank you so much.
And it's a pleasure. So nice to chat.
And thank you to all of you who have come to the end of this conversation. And we'll see you soon. Bye.
Bye.